choosing the right eMTB can be a minefield. Model names, specifications, and marketing language all start to blend together, and it's not always clear what actually matters. But once you establish the technicality of the tracks you plan on riding, everything becomes far simpler. The correct suspension travel becomes obvious, the right frame type becomes clear, and your motor and battery choices fall naturally into place. This guide walks you through a terrain-first filtering system built around real UK riding, the same logic experienced riders use when choosing their own bikes. Everything begins with the ground beneath your wheels, so let's get into it. The chart breaks UK riding into 4 clear categories across a spectrum from smooth to demanding. Before we walk through them, it's important to understand what the chart is. It's a guideline, not a rule book. It shows the environments each suspension range is ideally suited for. It doesn't mean a 120mm eMTB can't be ridden at a trail centre, or that a 170mm bike can't cruise fire roads. Those things happen every day. The point is simple. As terrain becomes rougher, more technical, or more unpredictable, the suspension, geometry and components start to matter more. A 120mm bike can comfortably ride blue trail centre loops, but on red and black features, rock gardens, roots, sharp compressions, the stability and support of a longer travel platform become far more relevant. The chart highlights the optimal zones where each category performs best. All 4 categories can include climbs and descents. The difference is not the gradient, it's the technicality of what happens on those gradients. As you move left to right, the ground gets rougher, the forces increase, features become unavoidable, line choice becomes more demanding, and the suspension travel required increases with it. With that in mind, let's move on to utilising the eMTB terrain guide, starting with the type of suspension required for light off-road usage. This is the smoothest terrain on the scale, but not necessarily flat. Think forest fire tracks, canal paths, cycle routes, disused railway lines, well-maintained bridleways. The key characteristics are surfaces are predictable, obstacles are avoidable, traction is consistent, the climbs and descents may be long, but the surface stays smooth. 80 to 110mm removes vibration and small chatter without unnecessary weight. If your riding is mainly on smooth, well-built terrain, regardless of gradient, this is your starting point. Moving on to our next category of usage, where the predominant amount of your rides will be off-road. The ground becomes more varied but still manageable. Think smooth single track, blue trail centre loops, mellow red sections, rolling mixed terrain, shallow routes, low rock features, small drops. Here the slopes can be longer or more varied, but the surfaces begin to introduce features that require more support, small routes and tighter turns. This maps closely to blue trail centre riding. The easier end of red routes, natural cross-country terrain, 120 to 130mm provides comfort, grip and stability, while keeping the bike efficient and lightweight. Next up on the terrain chart is technical off-road riding. This is where the terrain demands more from both bike and rider, not because of steepness alone, but because of the features found on those gradients. Expect route networks, awkward rock clusters mid-trail, sharp pitches that require traction and support, off-camber entries and exits, tighter corners, natural chutes, short but technical climbs over rough ground. These are features you cannot avoid. The gradient may increase briefly, but the defining factor is the technical complexity of those sections. If you regularly ride red and black trails, natural technical routes, or well-known riding areas in Scotland, Wales or national parks such as the Lake District, you'll almost certainly want to start your search in this category as a minimum. 140mm sits at the all-rounder end and can cover most UK terrain. 150 to 160mm pushes into modern e-enduro, providing more forgiveness and stability. Lastly, within the terrain chart is a gravity-oriented category. This is where steep terrain becomes part of the identity of the riding environment. Here, riders are typically looking to push their limits and often enjoy attacking lines hard and need their bikes to stay planted in challenging environments. Larger jumps and drops are favoured, and heavy-duty off-piste lines are prioritised. These are not simply hills, these are committed gradients combined with technical features. Here, the suspension must maintain braking traction, absorb big impacts, resist pitching under load, keep the rider centred, track unpredictable surfaces, have plenty of travel in reserve for when the terrain demands it. 170 to 180 plus mil is built for control in high force environments. These bikes can ride easier terrain, but they're designed for riders who spend meaningful time on gravity-led tracks. Suspension travel reflects the forces generated by the terrain, not just the slope. As the environment becomes rougher, more technical, or more unpredictable, the suspension must maintain braking traction, absorb repeated impacts, prevent pitching, keep the rider centred, have plenty of travel in reserve for when the terrain demands it. Short travel suits smooth, predictable terrain. Long travel stabilizes the bike in chaos. Choosing the right travel is choosing the bike that matches the terrain you ride most often. At this point, you may be wondering what the benefits of having a full suspension bike compared to a hardtail. First up, let's have a look at the benefits of having a front suspension bike. Hardtails work perfectly in light off-road terrain due to the fact they're simple, efficient, and comfortable on predictable surfaces. But once terrain becomes rocky, rooty, off-camber, technical, fast, the rear wheel loses tracking, braking becomes harsher, and the rider is pitched forward over bumps. Full suspension keeps both wheels engaged, stabilizes the bike, and maintains control through technical sections. Once you've decided on the terrain and the suspension platform you'll be using, the next thing to consider is the size of your battery. Battery capacity is the energy supply for the entire ride. Higher watt hours mean more stored energy and more potential distance. Range depends on rider weight, elevation gain, terrain type, rolling resistance, headwinds, temperature, tyre choice, cadence and assist mode. For a realistic estimate, use an e-bike range assistant. Enter your weight, terrain and assist level. It gives a practical prediction of how far your battery will take you. If you regularly ride with friends or in a group, your battery choice needs some careful consideration. If your battery capacity is significantly lower than the rest of the group, for example, 400 watt hours while others are on 600 to 800, you will run out sooner even if your riding style is similar. This mismatch creates range anxiety, forcing you to drop assist levels just to keep up. A battery in the mid-range or above 600 watt-hours plus reduces this issue and keeps group pacing consistent. If your typical rides are in the 8 to 12 mile range, you'll rarely need the biggest batteries available. Large battery units add weight, and if you only use a fraction of their capacity, you're carrying unnecessary mass. Smaller and mid-sized batteries create a lighter bike and often feel livelier and more efficient on shorter loops. Your battery size needs to be chosen carefully. Larger batteries give you more range, but they do add a small amount of extra weight. It's not dramatic, but enough for some riders to notice a slightly heavier feel on the trail. This is why many 600 watt-hour batteries now offer a range extender, a bottle-shaped auxiliary battery that mounts in the bottle cage. When a bike supports this, you get real flexibility. You can choose a lighter bike for short rides using the main 600 watt-hour battery. Extended range for big days out by plugging in the extender. It's a practical way to balance weight, handling and real-world range without committing to a permanently heavier battery system. Once you have considered what battery size you might need, this will then help you decide whether a lightweight or a full power system is best for your needs. Traditionally, lightweight systems offer lower torque, smaller batteries, lighter handling, closest feel to a manual bike, ideal for agility and fitness. Full power systems offer high torque, large batteries, maximum support, built for steep climbs and big days. But modern disruptors, such as Avinox, now offer lower overall bike weight, batteries up to 800 watt-hours, torque levels up to 120 newton meters. This blurs the old lines, bringing huge power and range with minimal weight penalty. Some riders love the full power capability. Others prefer the natural feel, capped torque, and lighter handling of traditional lightweight bikes. There is no right or wrong answer. Choose the system that matches your terrain, your distance, and the pace of the people you ride with. Whether you need a full suspension or hardtail, you can use the MTB Monster website to filter on your preferences with regards to terrain, suspension travel required, battery power, and drive unit torque. You simply apply that logic to the filtering system on the MTB Monster website. Start by choosing whether you need a hardtail or a full suspension bike. Then select the amount of suspension travel suited to the terrain you ride. After that, choose the battery size and motor output you want. To do this, simply open the drive units available and the Newton meter power available highlighted in brackets. And if you're unsure, you can select multiple options or leave filters blank to compare everything. Within a few clicks, you reduce hundreds of bikes down to a focused shortlist that matches your riding, your distances, and your real-world needs. If you'd like help choosing the right eMTB for your riding, feel free to contact MTB Monster or visit our showroom. We use this exact system every day to match riders with the bikes that suit their terrain. In our next video, we'll be breaking down the specifications between the different models, helping you understand the differences between the bikes on your shortlist. Thanks for watching.